Hello, my friends. Thanks for coming to play. I'm working on 3 books, sifting through enormous amounts of material. And in one place, it said that the point and purpose of writing these books is to explain to people that we're on this long journey out from the mystery because we can't understand what God's source origin is. We just know we carry that glint of light within ourselves. And we're on this long journey from forming our intent in our being, then taking this intent and focusing it on certain different realities from all the complexities that we can choose. And we chose to become a human on Earth. We chose this species, which gave us mind. And the point of being a human is to understand what is love and what is not love. And that's why we're carrying the ability to equally create and destroy. Because once we take self responsibility, we will understand what is love and what is not love here on the planet, right? So, and then we can acquire enough knowledge through many, many lifetimes here and experiences in other places if we chose other places, right? But here, we're here. I'm talking to you from Earth, right? so, so our choice to be here was also to acquire the knowledge of the journey. Now, all dogma, all religions say we come from God and we return to God. And that is the truth of the journey. But it's much more complicated than that. I wish I had another word for ascension. I've got to find one because that's too related to dogma. I can choose to ascend after this lifetime. I will have completed my God given intent. And they defined this a little bit better for me that my intent was to explain the journey for people who didn't have a religious tradition, for people who didn't want the metaphor of the dogma of religion. Okay, so this morning I was thinking, well, how am I going to explain that? And then I thought, excuse me, I thought of a horse racetrack. All right. So, um, because we're just as individuals a glint of light in a wave of light that leaves the mystery, God source origin. All right. And waves into so many different realities. And we're just a little glint. We're like a molecule in the river, right? And we leave the starting gate in a wave of associates. We're team players. We really are. For each one of us to get it, shares this information with everybody else. Okay. So all the horses, and it's not a race, but the loop idea of a racetrack is what this analogy is like. So the horses all start together and they're running down the track. And you've all seen this. I can't watch horse races anymore. I think it's brutality of the ego of how humans use other species here, but that's just me. Okay. Um, some horses break their legs, they bump each other, they can die of a heart attack, their hearts explode on the racetrack and they die unexpectedly. Okay, well, that's kind of like life, right? This is tough. This is dense. We suffer here. We feel pain. It's bewildering what happens to us here sometimes. Okay, so then there's this, um, they I forget what it's called when they reach the apex of the loop, and the apex of the loop in our experience would be the beginning of contemplating, how do we get back? What is our reality here? But if we came here from something, how do we get back? What is the return? And so contemplation is kind of the apex of the loop away from the starting gate, which is mystery, God, origin, however you want to think about it. And then in our contemplation, we can begin to make the choice to return. Now, one of the most beautiful lines in all the meditations is that we do not return the same way we came, right? That was interesting, right? So, the horses are still on the same track, but um, our return, the choice to ascend, the choice to return to the mystery is um, often started when all the stage props of life fall down, when we might experience a huge loss and we really or illness, and we begin to question, what's the point of this? And that contemplation has us look within. It changes our focus from without to within. And we begin to ask those questions. And in those asking those questions, in that seeking, we acquire the knowledge that we can make the choice, because ascension is not earned, as I was taught as a Catholic. It is learned. So, how do we learn about the choice to go back? That's by seeking. And that is an inward journey. So you can think of leaving the starting gate as exploration, and we participate in life. But it's the contemplation, the going inward, which is what I think happens at the apex of the racetrack. Well, I mean, in the metaphor anyway, right? And so we have lifetime after lifetime of trying to accumulate knowledge, trying to express our God given intent until we feel complete. Now, that's different for everybody. There's no judgment anywhere. There's just choices. And eventually we can choose to return. But the return journey is like, what do they call that? I don't know enough about horse racing, like the home stretch, I guess. We could we could use the analogy of the home stretch for ascension, because that part of the loop back is as complex and long in ways that we can't even comprehend, an experience for our self-awareness, as was the journey, the racetrack, until we decided to turn back and go toward home, right? And so the choice to leave our solar system is huge. And I talk about that in my book, Choices in the Afterlife. It's called The Threshold of Choice. But not everybody sees it. Not everybody knows it, because not everybody has been looking for it, right? And so the home stretch is unification, where our journey out from God's source being was all separation. And humans are on this planet to learn what is love and what is not love, because God is love. God is the harmonious orchestration of energies, and that's what love is. And we're here to learn what isn't love, right? And so when we devote ourselves to unification for many, many, many lifetimes, we strive to complete our God given intent. Now, not everybody has many lifetimes. There are people who do it in one lifetime, and Buckminster Fuller, who I interviewed once, was one of those. He only had one lifetime and he chose to move on after that lifetime, leaving the incredible genius here that he was when he was here, right? So when we keep unifying and keep unifying and keep unifying on the home stretch, eventually we're merged back into God source origin, the great spirit, the mystery, and we cease to know ourselves as anything separate. And the only way I could think of that using the racetrack analogy was all the horses go back to the stable and talk about the race, right? that's where that's where the metaphor kind of falls apart. So there are some of us who don't have a religious tradition, who are not being brought up with even the metaphor of the dogma of the journey out and the return. And that's a lot of what I want to express in these books that I'm trying to pull together right now. And that's why I'm not on YouTube very much. But I hope you enjoy past offerings and like, share, subscribe, all those good things. And I'll see you next time. And until I see you again, please be well and please be blessed. See you soon.